Thank you for joining us again. It's still Rise and Shine. And if you're just joining in, this conversation is live on Facebook and on Instagram at SpectrumTv.ng, where we're here right now with our guest.
Yeah, talking about the conversation, that line of thought is with how parents can nurture the children to adulthood. And with us in the studio to share his thoughts in that conversation is the member board of governors Redemption Academy, Uyo. He is also the pioneer head of Department of Development Communication Faculty of Media and Communication Studies in University of Uyo. I'm talking about Professor Ashong. Good to have you in our studios this morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning,
Nice
sir.
to be here.
Sir.
Yeah, great.
Good morning
Lovely.
again.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You
Yes,
look
sir.
good this morning.
Welcome.
So we're talking about parent-child relationship. So let's establish the basis. Most times, we get to flow very well with the younger kids. They're coming up, and sometimes we get stuck when we are relating with the teenagers. So first of all, let's lay the basis. What should be a typical relationship between a parent and the child?
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you too.
I must begin by saying that I'm privileged to be a parent. I used to be a child. And I had a very wonderful relationship with my parents as I was growing up, which was based on trust and friendship. So I believe that it's necessary for parents to recognize that the best thing you can do for yourself and for your children is to make them friends. Once they see you as a friend, it is possible for them to share their real thoughts with you. They won't be relating with you on the basis of dread or fear, but on the basis of friendship. It does not erode respect. And I think that's probably the reason why some parents are overbearing on their children, and usually it does not produce the expected outcome, which is to make the children take whatever they say. If anything, it makes them want to outsmart you. It makes them want to show you that you are not as wise as you think you are, or all-knowing as you think you are. I believe that the basis should be that of friendship.
Okay.
Well, you've said quite nicely, but you understand that that is away from the African culture. We grew up back in the days where parents were, like kings. You see your father, you need to run for your life.
I'm smiling because my father was an African.
That was
So when you say
exceptional one.
it is out of, it's not the African culture,
Okay.
I begin to wonder where he came from.
So yeah, talking in this context means, a lot of times majority to say carries the vote. Predominantly, parents in this part of the world are domineering. They have that fierce look, or maybe they just don't know how to express affection and maybe get more friendly. But from this angle, do you think that that pattern can actually sing down well here?
It works with me and for me. It worked with me and with my father. So I think it will also work with my children and their children. And I honestly think that sometimes the majority is sincerely wrong. If the majority thinks that the way to be a father is to be fierce looking, you come and every child is running and hiding. In my house, the rule is, if I come in and I catch you doing something wrong and you continue doing it, no punishment. Because I believe honestly that you didn't know it was wrong. That's why you didn't stop when you saw me. But if I catch you and there's clear evidence that you are trying to ensure that I didn't notice it, then you get punished.
Oh.
Because it means you knew that was wrong and you went ahead to do it. Every child, the Bible says that foolishness abounds in the heart of a child. There's no doubt about that. And that the king will drive it far away from him. In fact, it says, if you flog a child, he won't die. And I believe it honestly. And children who grow up in my house know that if I tell you I will flog you, expect it.
Oh
I don't
my.
say it
A rainy
if I
day.
don't mean it.
Okay.
And if I say I will flog, I flog thoroughly.
My goodness.
So I don't have to flog twice over the same offense. So
Okay.
that's the rule in my house.
All right. Let me come right in. You just made a point that I want to legion. Now, let's look at discipline in the home. You already started that conversation anyway. The place of how do we draw the line between disciplining a child and actually,
Maltreating.
I wouldn't want to use that word, for lack of a better word, punishing the child? How do you distinguish these two things?
I think that discipline has a purpose. Punishment, I don't know if it has a purpose. The purpose of discipline is to ensure that a child imbibes that which is right and does it right. If a child has already learned that a thing is wrong, there's no need for the punishment. But if a child does not know that it is wrong and you go ahead to punish, you may just be creating enmity. Let me give an example. My father told a story. I was too young to know if I was even born then, of my eldest sister, who's 5 years older than I am. That's why I say I probably was not born or I was too young to know. He said that she did something wrong and he was furious, and he actually got a cane and was ready to flog the daylight out of her. And when the young lady saw the cane, rather than run away from him, she ran to him. So he dropped the cane and picked her up and told her never to repeat that. So young as I was, I learned early that between me and my father, it's not cats and dogs. It's not, he's not, I think a father is foolish who is trying to make a child realize that he is the authority. You already are. Shoenka says a tiger does not need to proclaim his tigritude. You are already a tiger. Just be a tiger. And everybody will know you are a tiger. You don't have to go about announcing that you are a tiger. So a father does not, an authority is not a question of coercion. It's a question, my philosophy teacher said, if you enter your class and for 1 whole minute, the people are still making noise, there's something wrong with you. As a teacher, you don't say what's wrong with them, you say what's wrong with me. And I learned that. I've been teaching for 37 years. I've never banged the table to ask my students to keep quiet or screamed on my head to say keep quiet. No. I have ex-students everywhere you can find out. That's because I got to know early in life that as a teacher, your authority does not come from your screaming. It comes from your ability to deliver the goods. If the students think that you can and you do deliver the goods, it gives you authority. So in my class, for instance, if they are making noise, all I do is keep quiet. And my silence becomes so loud, they are forced to keep quiet. And I think that that's how a father should behave. In my house, for instance, you could be in my house for 3 days and not see me, not hear my voice. But everybody knows I'm there. And everybody falls in line. It doesn't matter how young, it doesn't matter how old. So I believe that parents should establish authority. How? One, by loving the children. If they know that you love and care about them, then whatever you say means a lot to them. Two, credibility. When you say a thing, mean it. Don't tell a child, I will buy you this when you don't intend to. And don't, for instance, my 2 little children learned when they were 3, 4, that it's not everything you want that you get. I had money in my pocket, for instance, and my son said, Daddy, I want this ice cream, which was no ice cream actually. These things they put in cellophane paper and chill. And I said to him, I don't have money for that. He said, he looked in my pocket. I said, but that's money in your pocket. I said, yes. I didn't say I don't have money. I said I don't have money for that. So he learned early. When he wants something, he says, Daddy, do you have money for this? It's not just do you have money. No, it has to be money meant for that. So even if I have all the money in the world, it's not to be spent on what it wasn't intended for.
Okay.
So they know it. They knew it early. So for me, authority is important. You establish your authority by being a good father. I don't know if I'm one. That's not what I'm saying. But you establish your authority by being a good father, by being what they expect of a father, by being a model, and by keeping your word. Nothing is comparable to that.
If I get you correctly, you're talking about self-discipline first.
First, you must be disciplined. You can't be requiring it of them if you are not. It doesn't make sense. Many fathers think that they are above the law. No. If you made a law, then you must. That's why I like what the British people are doing to their prime minister. He made the law and he broke it, and they are holding him to account. In Nigeria, we would praise them to the high heavens.
Okay, so
let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go there, please. Okay, so sometimes it's difficult for a parent to, manage their teenagers, because sometimes they feel that you're not in their clique, you don't understand them, you just don't understand them. Now, why is it so difficult for a parent to really relate? Let me give you a scenario. A child comes back from school and he's sunk in with his phone and he's just typing. Who are you typing? Nobody. And he just goes. Who's your friend? Nobody. And he just goes. Now, what is missing? Why is that gap there that a parent cannot really relate with their teenage children?
I think it began earlier than the teenage years.
Okay.
Whatever they built earlier on is beginning to reflect at that point. Psychologically, I'm told it is called a period of stress and storm. And they cannot but be like that. And parents must learn to have some understanding. For instance, there was a time my son came and was sagging his trousers. So I looked at him and I giggled and giggled and giggled again. He said, Daddy, what is it? I said, these are your trousers. I've learned that the way to get to them is to sometimes sound humorous rather than be furious. So I said something I don't think I want to repeat on air. And he said, no, Daddy, stop it. He went. Next time I talked about it, so my son asked me, so if I don't do this now, will I do it when I'm your age?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And we laughed it off.
Yeah.
Then he left for school. After school, he met a young man who unfortunately is late now. Ubong. I heard you say your name is
My.
Ubong.
Not this one.
Not this one, please.
Ubong King.
Oh.
Who
Okay, yeah.
told him, give me 3 months of your life and I'll make something out of you. Said that to me and I said, please, take him. And he came back. My son's trousers were up.
On his waist with a tie.
His tie on, and I said, hey boy, you're looking cute. He said, Daddy, because I don't sag anymore. I said, no. So what stopped you? He said that a man must outgrow some things. So we must learn that there are a few things, there's nothing you can really do about them. A person must act his age. If he doesn't act his age then, he will act it later. You just help them to see that there are boundaries. There are lines they shouldn't cross. Some things can become excessive, and it becomes destructive, not just to the people around them, but to them first. So it's a question of helping them to understand. Sometimes we expect that a 16-year-old would act like a 60-year-old. It's just not possible. When my children were growing up, I said I wanted them to be active, and somebody said, "It's troublesome." I said, "Stop it. He's not troublesome. He's just active. Run around everywhere, touch everything, push things down and stuff." Luckily, he didn't break too many things. And he didn't get hurt. And I was pleased. And I said, if he doesn't do this now, when will he? That's the age for it. So we must allow some things. And then, of course, I knew that there had to be boundaries. So he, in that being active, he got in love. You know, at that time we were not very comfortable. I'm not saying we are now. All we could afford was a ring boiler if we wanted hot water. And my son fell in love with it when he was a toddler. He would crawl to the place. And I said, gosh, this is the one thing I don't want him to toy with. How do I get him to learn this lesson? I would run after him. Then one day I said, no, enough of this running after him. The water got hot. I followed him to the place, turned it off, and put his hand in the hot water. He screamed. I held it, put it again. He screamed, expecting help, and I smiled. Put it a third time. He never went close to it again.
Oh, shit.
So when I talk about loving the child, I'm not saying condone everything the child does. I'm saying that you must show the child sufficient affection to make the child know that you care. And later in life, the child begins to learn that when you say some things should not be done, it's not because you want to establish anything. You are doing it for his own good.
In case you're just joining in, you're the womenist of the show, and we're playing host to Professor Ashong C. Ashong, and it's talking about parentage and the way forward, especially with kids. And we'll jump right back into this conversation. And
Exactly. Okay, so how, let me put it this way. Sometimes parents seem to, want to be domineering, like you said, in taking charge of telling children or their younger children, their older children rather, their career, choosing their career choice, who they marry, what they do and what they don't do. Now, so let's set the boundaries. At what point can a parent say, okay, you have the freedom, make your choice?
I think that it's important to let the child know early that it's his life we are talking about, not yours, the parents. So his interest, in my opinion, should be respected, especially when it comes to choosing careers. Let me use my son as an example. He said he wanted to read engineering because his friends were all wanting to read engineering. And I said to him, the little I know about engineering, your mathematics is not strong enough. Why don't you consider something else? So he said, like what? Like I said, no, just any other thing that might interest you. When he couldn't reach anything, I said, I look at your technical drawing. It looks so good. Why don't you consider architecture? He said, okay, that sounds interesting. So we started working towards that. Unfortunately, when the school certificate came, just as I predicted, he didn't get the mathematics. And I said, you see what I was saying? So he said, oh, okay, that means he has to think of something else. I said, that would be nice. Then, fortunately for him, the world became IT crazy. And he said, what about information science? I said, that would be great. Now, he has a master's in information technology management. And he's so thankful that he ended up there and not in engineering. Now, I think that what parents should do should be to guide, not dictate. You like the glamour of a title, engineer, lawyer, blah, blah, blah. Forget those. It's not your life. It's his life or her life. So guide them, but let their interests prevail. Why? Because when they encounter difficulties, their interests will push them on. But if they were just doing it for you, when they have trouble, they say, this thing daddy made me do. For 35 years, I have never succumbed to the temptation of giving my students project titles. A student comes to you and says, please, sir, can give me a title. I say, no, I don't do that. And they think that you are just being hard. I say, this is the reason. If I choose a title for you, the day you encounter trouble, you say, this thing this man gave me. But if it is one you chose, it's out of your interest. When you encounter difficulties, you face them. And so parents should guide. Marriage, whatever, you should guide. I'm not saying abandon them to their own devices, but guide them, but let it be ultimately their own choice. If they choose a marriage partner because that's the one you wanted and they start quarreling, it's you. You are the problem. Like Adam, the woman you gave me.
Okay, let's strengthen a little bit here. You talked about, getting the child to learn the hard way. And sometimes, yes, sometimes. To what extent could that happen?
So long as it does not hurt.
What circumstances?
So long as it does not hurt. So long as there's something that psychologists call maturation. There's an age at which somebody is capable of some things. Some people try to make children do things a little too early. I don't go for that. For instance, thinking that a child is a dummy unless he can read at 2 or 3. It doesn't make sense. Those who can, great. Those of us who are slow, don't destroy us. Because when we do pick up later, we might fly. Nobody who knew me when I was in primary or secondary school could have imagined that I would ever become a professor. I didn't look like it. It's not because I was a dummy. I was playful. That was my age. When I got older, I began to understand. And from thence on, I was almost always top of my class. So allow children to mature for whatever it is, and then they would naturally pick up those things with a little help here and there. Now, if you're going to be hard, just make sure that the child doesn't get hurt. Like the example I gave, I first turned off the switch, then make sure the water wasn't too hot, but hot enough to be uncomfortable for him. Because simply picking him up and say, don't do it, the lesson wasn't getting learned. So something had to be done to make the lesson to be learned.
Okay, so let's look at something very interesting. Home work-life balance, because sometimes our parents get so busy, lost in their jobs. Even when they come back home with the work. So they have the office in the house.
We're guilty of that.
and then the child doesn't have the necessary attention. So how do we balance that?
It's important to know that although careers are useful and important, that there can be nothing compared to a child, a life. And that God trusted you enough to give you this life to raise. Society also trusts you to lay a good foundation. And you know for yourself that it's good for your old age if you do lay the right foundation. As I say this, my son is somewhere far away. And when I was trying to do my inaugural lecture, he asked, so how is it coming? I said, well, not bad. A little tough here and there, and sometimes I don't get the attention. He said, Daddy, that's our house, that's our house, that's our house. So do you think that if you could concentrate for, say, 3-4 days, it would come through? I said, sure. The point at which I am now, 3-4 days of real concentration would make it work. He said, okay, then why don't you go to an hotel? Leave the house for those days. I said, oh boy, there are too many things to do with money. He says, no, I'll send you the money. I said, what are you saying? I'll send the money. I said, no, you have too many bills to take care of. He said, look, Daddy, I'm saying what I know I can do. If it were beyond me, I wouldn't say it. And he did. He sent me the money. I didn't go to the hotel.
Now you're confessing.
The work got done anyway. The important thing was that the work should get done. It got done. And those who attended the lecture said it was good. So I didn't need to go there after all. But the point was that he understood that the house can sometimes be very rowdy. And of course, I had made up my mind from the beginning that I would not raise children if I can't attend to them. And of course, which is why I stopped with the number I had. But having stopped my own, I have had dozens of others that are as good as my direct children. So it's important that a parent should note that the children are priority. For me, I've decided that my home comes first. Now, at a point, I had some assignment at the university, and my colleagues were asking me to do a certain thing. And I said to them that I'm sorry, but my family wouldn't want me to do that. And one person asked me, so you mean if we all agree that a thing be done and your family says no, you would not do it? I said, if you insist, I resign. Without thinking, it appeared. And he said, you just said it off. I said, no, I finished thinking about it long ago. I wasn't just thinking now, I finished thinking. Whenever there is an irreconcilable difference between my job and my family wins. I'm not thinking twice about that. Why? Because I could change jobs, but I can't change my family. Mm-hmm. I'm stuck with them. That's not being negative.
Yeah.
I'm saying it that you don't have an option. And you didn't choose your children, for instance. Yeah. The children didn't choose you for a father. So if you're either fortunate or unfortunate to have them, stay with them and handle them properly. So that, for me, is the thing. You must have priorities.
Let me chip in on that.
The family is priority for me.
Yeah, you talk about family priority just before you say your bye-bye. Okay, so how can a parent resolve the conflict of having issues in the family? Let's say a father and the mother, they're having issues. Now, it affects the children some way negatively. Now, how can you wash that off the child's mind? Because sometimes you have a typical scenario of a father maybe hitting the mom and the child is there in the presence of the child. Now that child grows up maybe to hate a man, if it was a female child, or if it was a male child who grows up to, maltreat other women.
I must say I'm privileged, and I almost said lucky, but I think lucky is understating it. Blessed, I think, is the word. I had a father who was a pastor, knew his onions, and guided us right. And I learned early in life that a child is innocent at all times. So whatever goes on between the parents, the child should not become part, or it should not affect the child adversely. So for my wife and I, for instance, we've been married for 32 years, and our children have never seen us exchange words. Not to talk of hitting. I have never hit her. I never think I will. But we made up our minds that if we must quarrel, we'll quarrel behind closed doors in our room. If anybody comes, we straighten up and wear a smile until they go. And of course, we also agreed. We are strong believers in the Bible. We believe that the Bible is right when it says, be angry but do not sin, and don't let the sun go down on your anger. So we get angry and we are determined that the sun won't go down on it. We resolve it before the sun goes down. So for us, it works very well. You never exchange words before the children. And my wife is fantastic. I must give her credit for it. I personally don't think that the way to solve a problem is when both of you are mad and you are raising voices. If she's mad, I try to be sane. If I'm mad, I insist that she should be sane. Both of us can't be mad at the same time. And if she starts raising her voice, I just say calmly, you are raising your voice. And it may not be easy, but she tries to bring it down. Tell me what you want to tell me, but don't let another person hear it. That's the rule. Say whatever you want to say to me. I don't mind. I know you're angry. You'll soon calm down. But don't let somebody else hear it. So people can be in a house for years and they never get to see us quarrel. Not because we don't disagree. We do.
Okay, now, obviously, almost everything you've talked about has to do a whole lot with changing people's mindset. Now, how do we handle this? Because we see a lot of young persons get into marriage or with a backlog of things that have happened to them over the years and display all of that in marriage. But how do we change the mindsets of persons, especially parents, in this age?
Parents should first realize that you are the model for your children. So ask yourself, is this what I want my son to be? There was a day my son came back from school and said he slapped somebody, and for which he was suspended for 2 weeks. So I just received him, said nothing for 1 week, or 1 week plus. Then I called him and said, "You are 14. Tell me how many times I have hit your mother." He said, "Never." So where did you learn this from? That the way to resolve issues is to hit people. He suddenly felt very ashamed. I said, that's not how to resolve issues. I'm not saying that she was right to whatever she did, but the fact, number one, that it was a girl, not a boy, that should have tempered you. But it failed to temper you. Where did you get that from? So he saw that that was alien to us, and he wasn't going to repeat it. So a parent should realize that they are the model. Then when the time expired, I went to the school and told the principal, "I'm very sorry for what my son did, but he came. I deliberately didn't come to you. I wanted the time to expire. Let him experience the punishment for what he did so he can learn not to repeat it." And the principal said that actually after he did it, the way he behaved, they knew he was remorseful and they knew it was wrong. Long and short is, parents should model what they want their children to be. Okay. A father should be such that the daughter would wish that her husband would be like him. And he should be such that his son would say, "This is how my father did it." Sorry, we don't have too much time.
Okay, yeah, exactly. We have to wrap up with this, but real quickly, I have to chip this in for the benefit of some people who might need the information because of your wise counsel. Now, we live in a society where a lot of times we see cases of couples fight and a partner getting killed, and people coming up to say you didn't speak up on time and all of that. Now, it worked for you because both of you and your spouse had an understanding where to draw the line. For some people, maybe there's that misunderstanding often, and the wife trying to be the good person and always keeping quiet. At what point do you think someone can raise alarm over certain issues?
No, I don't think that raising alarm is it. I wish we had the time. I would have given a personal experience. We got married in 1990. In 1994, I did something stupid, which my wife felt was too much for her to take. And I knew I was wrong. I did apologize, but she couldn't take my apologies. And try as hard as I could, in fact, she even packed her bag and said, "Enough is enough." I knew her weakness. Her weakness was that she loved God and respected Him. So as she was about to leave, I just fell on my knees and said, "Lord, help me. I've gone to my wit's end." And that jolted her. So she stopped for a minute. I said, "If you must go, I'm not going to stop you. Go, but not like that. At least give me one last chance to show that I'm a man of my words. When we wedded, I did promise you that I was going to share everything I own with you. That box you are carrying does not represent 50% of all we own. If you must leave, take 50% of everything and go." And she thought it was light. She said, "I'll come back for them later." I said, "That includes 50% of our son. I won't let you take 100, nor am I willing to keep back 100. Take 50 and leave me 50. She knew that was impossible. I did that deliberately. Then, when she now sat down and I saw she was a little calm, I said, "Please, go and report me to somebody, whoever you think. Just let me know who in advance." And the reason I was saying that was, I said, only one condition, that whatever the person says, we won't argue. So I counsel young people who are about to marry and said, choose when all is well, you have friends. Agree on one human being that you both respect. When things are beyond you, go to that person. And you agree in advance that whatever that person says, you will stand by it. And of course, I say, make sure that the person has principles that are enduring and not somebody, like the man I asked her, she chose, when I said, go and report me to somebody, she said, this person. I said, oh great, I fear and respect him. So if you do too, let's go. And the man resolved it so simply, I was amazed how easy it was. And for me, it has always worked. For those who take the counsel, So the answer is, if they can't handle it, they should have at least one person that they both respect and who they won't argue with. So
Wise
whatever
words.
he says, they should take.
Well, wise words, I must say. Many thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the show, Professor Ashon. Of course, we're glad to have you in the studios, and we look forward to, inviting you subsequently. And I got a wink for that.
The wink.
That's supposedly a yes, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a yes.
We take that for a yes.
It's a
Thank you
big
for coming
fat
on
yes.
the show.
I'm
Yeah.
not too sure.